You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd. Here's your host, Jim Oliver.
Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, my special guest, Paul Epstein. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, Jim, fired up to be here.
You know, Paul, I was reading on your website and I signed up for your newsletter this morning, and I was looking at your course on confidence, your masterclass. I want to talk about that. But I always hate when people read my bio, and you have a really cool bio. So why don't you, because I'm not going to do it justice, introduce the audience to yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what you do.
Absolutely. So today's world now, I'm a keynote speaker, two-time best-selling author, podcaster, Win Monday. I know we're going to talk about Winning Monday today and also confidence and how interwoven they are. But by background, before the Jerry Maguire leap, and intentionally I'm going to say a Jerry Maguire leap because I was a sports guy. I was in the NFL and NBA for 15 years, not as the player, but as the business exec, all in this sales and business development lane. So from an entry to executive level in reverse order, Chief Revenue Officer, San Francisco 49ers, open up Levi Stadium, amazing. $1 billion plus expectations, shattered it. Before that, NFL league office, oversaw a national sales campaign for the first ever Super Bowl when it was in New York. That was Super Bowl 48. Broke an all-time Super Bowl revenue record along with my teams there. And before that, it was 3 NBA clubs in order: LA, New Orleans, Sacramento. And there was this beautiful through line, Jim, because as much as it sounds like a sexy fairy tale and kid in a candy store, and don't get me wrong, I loved every moment of it. I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without that decade and a half experience in a dream industry. But the beauty of it was I was always selling the underdog. So as an example, my second week on the job selling the LA Clippers when Kobe and Shaq, it was before Kobe Powell. It was Kobe and Shaq are winning championships across the hall. ESPN at that same exact time, when we won 17 out of 82 games, called us the worst brand in sports. And the front cover of Sports Illustrated said worst franchise in sports history. Then next stop, New Orleans, where it's a football town, basketball's an afterthought. We almost lost the team to permanent relocation. And it was a franchise-saving campaign where we had to make it bigger than basketball. And there had to be a campaign about civic pride because that is what a New Orleanian is passionate about. So when it became about salvaging a part of their identity, they made their pledge to support the franchise, and it was bigger than basketball. Fast forward, Sacramento Kings. I was, director of sales, but HR took a liking to me, said, Paul, we want you to head up our company culture initiatives. They take me under their wing. I'm charged with that. And then a month later, bang, league-wide labor lockout. So how do you manage morale when it feels like people's livelihoods are taken away? Mm-hmm. And then fast forward to my last stop, 49ers, a little thing called Kaepernick taking a knee. And I've got to face, along with my team in sales and service, 70,000 fans directly in the aftermath of one of the most controversial experiences that ever happened in sports. It was not an ESPN story. It was a CNN, Fox, and Beyond story. It was a worldly story and about kneeling in a national anthem. And so you could just imagine how, it's so jam-packed with awesome moments, awesome wins, amazing losses that teach you really the gifts of life. But again, man, I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. But I went to a retreat that changed my life while I'm at the Niners. And I find my why, find my purpose, find my values. I figured out that inner confidence. Since we're going to talk confidence, I figured out the confidence of who I am and how I can show up in the world with more intention. And when I started to align those two things, eventually I take a leap, and here we are, handful plus years later, having this conversation.
So I love that. Okay. I want to talk about 3 things. I said 2, but now 3, because one thing, I just had this conversation. I was just on the phone with one of my team members for an hour talking about, he's like, man, I'm a dumpster fire right now in these areas. And what do I do? Like, how do I turn it around? Right. So I want to talk about 3 things, and maybe I want to turning something around, going from being the Clippers to, whatever,
Sure.
or the
Yep.
49ers and having this controversy that actually still is going on today, where you see shit on Instagram and,
For sure.
so-and-so is
For
going to
sure.
fire everybody if they kneel. And some of it I think is fake, but I don't really know what's fake and what's not on there. So everybody kind of gets that turning, I don't want to say a loser into a winner, but turning something around and like, even like a situation, Paul, like, hey, I'm screwed up right now. I got this challenge in front of me or this obstacle. What do I do?
Yeah.
The confidence thing, which I really want to talk about. But let's talk about Win Monday. Like, cause that, I don't know what that means. So I know what the other two things mean. What does Win Monday mean?
When we win Monday, we have momentum to win the rest of the week. So imagine here we are, like imagine in this turnaround story, right? You're heading into a new season or a new year. And so Gen 1, let's put ourselves on Monday, Gen 1. Imagine you win 52 Mondays. You now have momentum to win 52 weeks, momentum to win 12 months, and you will call that year your most winning year yet, all because of a single decision to win Monday. So it's the ultimate reset button. It's the ultimate growth engine. It's the ultimate momentum driver. And I really try to keep things simple because if I say win the week, okay. Win the month, sure. Win the year, if I'm broken, even if I'm not, it just feels too big. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. I can't sense it. I don't know what are the 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 things I need to do to win the year. So I'm just going to give you one thing: win Monday. If you can win 52 Mondays, you literally cannot lose in life.
I love that because there's two other things that fall right in line with this. There's a book out there called The 12-Week Year, right? And it talks about periodization, which every sports team, all my girls, none of them were athletes, right? My son, he was a great baseball player, played baseball in college, but my girls, they weren't. And I was trying to explain periodization. So one of them was in theater, and I was like, perfect. That's periodization, right? You do all these practices, all these things, and then the performance, right? But there's also another, there are these guys that were coaches way back when. They're probably 90 years old now. They're the Kinder brothers. And they would say, make it a red letter day. Okay. And in the Bible, in the New Testament, the things that Jesus said were in red letters. So it was like saying, make that the good stuff, right? Make today a red letter day that they would write down. So it's the same concept as Win Monday, right? Make Monday a red letter day to where everybody knows, like, wow, the stuff we did today was good, right? And then build the momentum. Every sports team in the world understands momentum. But I love that concept because that'll feed right into. Let's talk about confidence. Why don't people have confidence?
A variety of things. I'll tell you one thing. For one, I think we look to our left and right too much. And so I always say bliss is when you stop looking to your left and right. I'm a fundamental believer that whether it's because of social media or anything else, comparison is a thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to the top 1% of what anybody does or says or is, or just don't. But also, like, this is all an inner game. And so confidence comes from stop comparing. So now if we can say, okay, I'm no longer comparing. Now I'm just going to live in my world. But think about, there's fear, there's doubt, there's worry, there's potentially if you overextend on ego, but then it becomes artificial. And now you get things like imposter syndrome. And so I could keep going, but there's just gaps all around us. Here's a couple of stats for you and your whole audience listening in here, Jim. Confidence gaps in a work setting. And then I'll talk about life. In a work setting, what the research tells us about our national workforce is that 85% of leaders lack confidence in their teams. Then, if that's downstream in an org chart, let's talk upstream. Not much better. 76% of people lack confidence in their leader. Not a good combination. Then, let's talk about in the mirror. Self. 85% of people lack confidence in themselves. And my belief is that because we are attaching our confidence to outcomes, we are attaching our confidence to external things, we are attaching our confidence to things we cannot fully control. So when adversity strikes, when a storm strikes, when uncertainty strikes, when change happens, we feel like we just got blown off course. But the most confident people have this ability to stay in this controllable space understand that environment and external circumstance is just that. They don't attach massive meaning to those things. And then we've heard the saying, control the controllables, but it's not just a saying. They actually identify, what do I control? They measure it, they track it, they audit it, they grow in those areas. So they make these very few things. And I'm happy to share a few that we integrated at the Clippers and I've integrated in my life. And there's different controllable elements, but this can transform your production, your performance, your happiness, your fulfillment, your success, your significance, your purpose, your impact, I could keep going, but that is what's at stake. And here's the last thing I'll share about confidence, and then we could take it wherever you want. I believe that the most confident people are the people that keep promises that they make to themselves. I'm going to repeat that. You are confident if you consistently keep the promises that you make to yourself. If you say you're going to wake up at 4, don't snooze. If you say you're going to eat right, not some of the time, all the time. If you say that you're going to be loyal to your spouse, you can't play the 90% rule. If you say that you're going to love on your team and you're going to build a championship culture, but you're an a-hole 20%, it doesn't work. Oh, I have honesty, I have integrity, and you tell the truth 90% of the time. You know that there's a gap between what you said and how you showed up, and that erodes at your confidence like a pickaxe. You're just picking away and picking away and picking away. And at a certain point, you're showing up at 30% of you, 40% of you, or 50% of you, because over the years, the compounding effect of not keeping the promises that you make to yourself has shattered your confidence.
I love that. I love that about the waking up, because here's the thing that like, let's take waking up early and going and working
let's
out,
go.
okay, is because I'm about ready to change one of the I have 2 different trainers and I do 2 different kinds of workouts. I do this functional thing, which is it's training athletes. They train a lot of hockey players somehow in Florida. And then I do this other, trying to build more muscle and strength 2 days a week with a different trainer, right? The functional one, the earliest I can work out is 7 a.m. And I hate it. And I hate it because I need to work out and get the blood flowing and get my mind thinking while I'm working out and everything, and then go read, do all of my miracle morning, whatever thing I do in the morning. And then by 8 o'clock, I'm ready to take on the world, right? And I'm not good at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm just not. I'm good in the morning. And so when I do 7, it's costing me an hour and a half before I'm ready to take on the world, right? And so I made a decision. I'm leaving that gym and I'm shopping to find somebody that will train me at 5 a.m., right? So that progress, or making that decision, because I don't like the way that it makes me feel to be an hour and a half late to what I consider being optimal in the morning. And but when you work out and you get on the scale, or you look in the mirror and you go, can I see my abs? Or can I see something that looks like it might be abs coming? Right? Or you get stronger. It's like you get stronger. Oh, I'm getting stronger. Oh, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting stronger. That builds confidence. And it's the same thing that you're talking about. And so can you learn to be confident? And what I was going to say is, but I have a trainer. Because if it was, Jim, get up at 4:30 every morning and go to the gym and work out and do this thing, guess what? Some days I'm going to think, I didn't sleep that good. I'm just going to sleep in today, right? So I want to talk about coaching, because I looked at your website and I looked at this masterclass on confidence. I want to talk about that. But what are the steps that you go through, and because I love that you're teaching people confidence.
Yeah. Let's go through an exercise. Actually, this will almost feel like a couple minute workshop. So let's engage. And so everybody, this is one of those, you hit pause on the treadmill, or you pull over, or you do whatever, because we're going to go through a little workshop. So I have trained this confidence formula, Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes, Shark Tank entrepreneurs, Fortune 100 CEOs. And today it's our turn right here on the Breakaway Wealth podcast. So I'm talking to you if you're listening in. Here is the formula, and then I'm going to give you a process on how to bring it to life. The formula for how you build and sustain unshakable confidence is confidence equals values times action. Confidence equals values times action. The multiplication is how consistently you do it. In other words, show me a person that takes consistent action on their values. I will show you a confident person, period, full stop. Now, notice my other reference point a couple minutes ago about confidence. Confidence comes from keeping the promises that we make to ourselves. It's not just any promises. It's promises that mean something to you, promises that matter. If you don't care about your health, you're never going to fully go all in and burn the boats on health goals. You're just not. You'll give up. It's just a New Year's resolution. It's a fad. It will expire. But if you attach it to a bigger meaning, whether that's walking my daughter down the aisle or whatever it is, it's got to have a greater purpose or it's not going to sustain. So that's the first thing, is attach it to a meaning where it matters, and you're not going to let, whether it's your trainer down, your daughter down, your spouse down, your team down, put it to be bigger than you, because now there's purpose. So let's go back to this formula. Confidence equals values times action.
Yep.
The number one thing that people don't know about themselves is their values. So when I say that, you're like, okay, well, confidence, is that a yes, no? Action, okay, that's pull a trigger or don't. Here's my quick fast pass on values. You could Google personal list of core values. Just Google those words, personal list of core values. You will get a bunch of image options, 50 words, 70 words, 100 words. Choose one. Just choose one, okay? And choose the one that jumps off the screen like it screams, this is me, hell yes. Okay, so now I'm going to assume that you know your core value. All right. Confidence equals values times action. Here's how you bring it to life. You're going to journal. It's only once a week, and it will only take you 2 minutes. So I don't care how busy you are, how distracted we can get. Everybody in the world has 2 minutes. So here's the journal, and I'll repeat it after. For the week ahead, I will live my value of blank by blank. For the week ahead, I will live my value of blank by blank. The first blank is the value that you just chose. The second is an action that you connect to the value. Remember the formula, confidence equals values times action. This is how you put it on paper. I'll say it one last time. For the week ahead, I will live my value of, insert value here, by, insert an action that you connect to the value. So Jim, let me give your audience 2 examples here, hypotheticals. Let's say that if you're listening in, you chose the value of joy. Okay, here's what your journal could look like. For the week ahead, I will live my value of joy by cooking my favorite meal. Cool, simple, small, accessible. Anybody in the world can do it. For me, I'm throwing bacon in a pan. What are you doing? Whatever brings you joy, you do you. So that's joy. Now let's up the ante a little bit. Instead of joy, let's go with a core value like courage. Here's what a journal could look like for courage. For the week ahead, I will live my value of courage by having that challenging conversation that I've been putting off.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have that conversation because Paul said you would have the conversation because courage is a core value. And here's my final caveat. That's the journal. For the week ahead, I will live my value of insert value here by insert the action there. That is the journal. But just like a New Year's resolution, if you only do it once or twice, I promise you no permanent change and no transformation. It'll just be a sugar high. I promise you. Navy SEAL, Olympic athlete, me, you, it doesn't matter. Humans are humans. However, here's the breakthrough. If it becomes a habit, if these actions of your values become a habit, you can sustain it for the rest of your life. And the beauty is we know the research on habit formation. A, you need a consistent process or system. So this journal would be your process and system. And B, the average human and adult takes 3 to 4 weeks for a habit to form. So in other words, my invitation and challenge to everybody is you got to get into that habit threshold. So do this for 4 weeks. 4 weeks, same value. Joy for 4 weeks. Excellence for 4 weeks. Courage for 4 weeks. Growth for 4 weeks. Whatever value you chose, do the same journal once a week. It takes 2 minutes a week. Do it for 4 consecutive weeks. My life changed because of this journal. I've now paid it forward to thousands of people, including those folks that I said, and now it's your turn. And literally in 30 days, you can be a different person.
I love that, man. I love that for a couple of reasons. One, I was writing that down. So if everybody thinks I was looking down, I'm writing it down on my walk-on board. I love that is making it simple. And what you're really describing is kind of like just progress, right? We like,
yep.
when you think about like how we're happy, like how it's making progress. And it's funny because I started taking my health more seriously a couple of years ago. And I remember working out and doing these workouts, and I almost felt like I needed a nap afterwards, right?
Yep.
And I would say, gosh, I'm going to this gym, but there's nobody in here over 50 that I want to look like. So I thought, okay, I'll be that example. So now what's funny is people will say to me, well, obviously you're in great shape and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, it wasn't overnight. Right?
Yeah.
It's been a journey.
It's compounding, Jim. It's a compounding effect, right? Like save $1 a day and it's nothing for a while. And then at some point you're a millionaire. Now that's hard to save so consistently and to be that disciplined. Health is the same thing, right? Yeah. If you do the right things the majority of the time and you do it for 5 years, you're going to be a healthy dude.
But it's hard to be sick too. You got to choose your hard.
Yeah.
Right. You get to choose. You can, hey, it's hard to be healthy, but it's hard to be sick. Right. It's hard to be wealthy, but it's hard to be poor too.
1,000,000%.
So you get to choose. That's the thing that's so beautiful about this life is we get to choose. Mm-hmm. And the way that we choose is our thoughts becomes our actions become our habits. Right. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I agree with you with the habit of things. If I got up in the morning and I didn't work out, I would think, oh, what happened today? Like it's a habit now. It wasn't always a habit. Or eating, knowing that I had 200 grams of protein and less than 100 grams of carbs. It wasn't always a habit, but that's a habit. And I'm like you said at the beginning, you keep things simple. I don't know about 40% of this, 30% of that. I just know 200 grams of protein in less than 100 carbs. The rest of it will take care of itself. So I love that. Tell everybody a little bit about, I see the book behind you, and also so let's talk about your books, but then I also want to talk about the opportunities on your website, because look, it doesn't matter if you're a real estate investor, business owner, the things that Paul's teaching with confidence, everybody could use. So talk a little bit about your books, first of all.
Absolutely. And we'll get to the books in 2 seconds, but you talked about real estate professionals or whoever. At the end of the day, here's my commitment is who in the world doesn't need to win Monday? Like who doesn't want to grow? Who doesn't want to succeed? Who doesn't want to transform? Who doesn't want to become the best version of themselves, whether individuals, teams, or organizations? So that's why I speak to every single industry out there. So just wanted to put it out there that I'm not just the sports guy. This is about human growth and potential and performance and success and significance. So I'll just leave that there. The 2 books that I wrote, Jim, the beauty of books is my publisher once taught me that you write the book that you once needed. Because ultimately you have to have gone through some struggle, some challenge, some problem, some pain point, but now you have a solution and you've implemented the solution in your own life. You've coached it or trained it or shared it with others. And you're like, holy smokes, this works. Yeah. I wasn't just a one-hit wonder, nor am I special. I'm not special. I'm just very disciplined in my principles and doing the things that I know lead to success and growth. So my first book, The Power of Playing Offense, it was a leadership playbook that I never had. Because if we compare business to sports, I think one of those 2 worlds absolutely screws up the way that we grow and introduce and cultivate leaders. Here's my example. In sports, let's choose basketball as an example. If somebody in the NBA scores 30 points a game, which means you're one of the top scorers in the league, and you ask the very simple black and white question, is that player destined to be a great NBA coach? Anybody that knows basketball would say, no, like there's minimal connection. There could be a guy that rides the bench that barely gets in the game and could be a Hall of Fame coach. The Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan has somewhat struggled in future chapters of the business career, but was arguably, if not for me, greatest basketball player ever. One of his teammates, Steve Kerr, was a role player and he's a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah. Okay. How does that work? Well, it's a different skill set. But in business, all we do is promote the top players to become coaches. That's all we do. Oh, you're the best attorney, supervise the attorney. You're the best accountant, supervise the accountants. You're the best salesperson. Welcome to sales management. Fundamentally wrong. And so beyond that, a stat that really irks me is 60% of managers in Fortune 1000 companies have never received a single day of leadership training.
Mhm.
So you might not be in the right seat and you're not even being developed. So
Yeah.
that worries me because now there's a negative domino effect on people. So instead of complaining about the solution, I wrote the solution. I wrote the playbook that Paul needed when I got promoted in business from player to coach. And I asked for a playbook and they told me, good luck.
Yeah.
And so I figured things out on my own. I've got tremendous leadership insights. It's a lot of my sports war stories. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful, very tactical and actionable leadership playbook. And for everybody out there that's not in a rank, role, title, authority that you think you're a leader, I started with how do you lead yourself? And that's 2/3 of the book or half of the book. And then the second half is now how do you lead others and how do you lead into the future? So if you just want to lead yourself, power of playing offense, and then better decisions faster is my second book. And that's all about how do you have unshakable confidence at your most critical forks in the road of business and life? Because I believe we all suffer from paralysis. We all suffer from stress. We all suffer from anxiety. And the higher the stakes, the more likely we are to make the worst decision of indecision. And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to solve for the problems of paralysis and indecision to give people clarity, confidence, conviction, and courage to make the biggest decisions in their life. And it's a super cool framework, head, heart, hands equation. I attach it to green, yellow, and red lights. Literally within a matter of seconds, you can insert your biggest challenges and your biggest decisions where you're stuck at a fork in the road, and you will land on a green light to take action, a yellow light where there's a little bit more work to do, or a red light to not take action within seconds versus suffering from paralysis and indecision like so many of us have.
So we'll put the both books and links in the show notes, audience. All right, now talk about this. There's a and I'm going to make sure it's master. There's a master class on
Yep.
confidence that you offer on your website. All right, and if I remember right, now I had all this down. There's like 5 hours of videos, or there's
Yeah. Yeah.
something like
Five
that.
modules. It's like 3 hours. And it really follows the playbook of better decisions faster. Because again, I'm not talking just, oh, do I make strategic choice A or B? Sure, it can help you with a decision like that. But here's a fun fact for you, Jim, and for everybody listening in. The average adult makes 35,000 decisions in a day. So if
Wow.
you don't think that you need to master your ability to make good and better decisions and not
Yeah.
take forever to make them, but to move faster so that worst case, if it's not the outcome you want, you learn and grow and you keep moving forward. That's what this masterclass is all about. I'm basically introducing folks to take ownership of their decisions, which means ownership of their actions. And if you zoom out, that's owning your life. Show me the quality of your decisions. I'll show you the quality of your life. Period. Full stop. So this is the masterclass for how to have a better quality of life and how to become more confident, but it's because you're going to make better decisions faster.
And you know what I love too is this course isn't thousands of dollars. It's a few $100s.
Yep.
And that's a lot of content and a lot of expertise and a lot of adversity and a lot of success and trying and working on things to pass on this knowledge in a few hours for a few $100s. And so I commend you, Paul, for putting that on there. And guys, there's a lot of guys out there, and we know them, that charge thousands of dollars and they don't really ever give you anything because they don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't been through it. But when I show somebody, like what we show people in my company, Create Tailwind, is how to be your own banker. And so everybody thinks the way that you make money is you go put money in Wall Street and you let it sit there and then you become wealthy someday. But if you go to Los Angeles, where you're at and where you're from and where I'm from, and you look around the people that have serious money, right? They didn't do it in Wall Street. They did it in business and in real estate,
Yep.
right? And so I tell people, hey, Paul, I used to show this slide, and I would say, hey, it's kind of like this. We're going to go to the movies. And so we pull up to the movie theater, and there's two different movies playing. One is a reassuring lie, and the other one is an inconvenient truth. Now, not Al Gore's inconvenient truth about climate change, but just an inconvenient truth. Where's the line to get into the movie? A reassuring lie. Because we've been taught not to have confidence that we have to have a confidence in somebody else, somebody to manage our money, somebody to govern us, somebody to hold our money like the banks. We've been taught we're not smart enough to take on real estate or businesses or whatever. Or that's too. We're taught not to have confidence. We're taught to be in the herd, which is part of what this whole program is about. So the fact that you're teaching people confidence, you're really teaching them the skills they need to break out of the herd, to have the life that they want to have and can dare to have. And the only thing that's standing in their way of taking action is confidence. So I love that. I love what you're doing. All right, Paul, along the way, somebody had to give you some great advice. What's the best advice anybody's ever given you?
It was the advice to not fall into an external happiness trap of I'll be happy when. So it was a reframe. Yeah. It was a reframe that one of my mentors taught me. And he said, you need to stop doing the I'll be happy when ... something that is future based, that has not happened yet. And he reframed it to say, I am happy because ... So it's present tense. What am I grateful for? What makes me happy? And I just believe, Jim, that if we're checking that happiness box because of this spirit of like, man, I'm not telling you life is perfect, but life is really good. And if it's not perfect, how do I get 1% better tomorrow? And just obsess with that growth and obsess with earning happiness, but ultimately not in the future of just genuinely like, there's nothing better than knowing that you've got a good life, that you can manage your stress, that you surround yourself with really good people that warm up your life. You know how to manage negative energy out. Like when you're in that space, when your business is, it's not always winning in an Excel spreadsheet, but you know that if you zoom out far enough, it goes up and to the right. It's a good stock. Yeah, all stock lines are jagged, but zoom out. Is it going up and to the right? And that to me is what this taught me, is when you focus on I'll be happy when, it just becomes a lot easier for your livestock to go up and to the right.
I love that. I think it was Think and Grow Rich. You'd talk about when you write down goals, don't write it down like I want to be 200 pounds or I want to have abs or I have abs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's another way to do it. Yeah.
Like you write them in the present tense. And that way, in The Strangest Secret, he says, whatever you think about, you become. So if you're thinking about I am this, then you become it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If God came down from heaven and only allowed you to retain the knowledge that you've received from one book, Paul, what would that book be?
I totally was going to say Think and Grow Rich. And now that you mentioned the book, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to mix it up, but that would have been my answer. I'm going to give you the more recent book that changed my life. Think and Grow Rich historically has changed my life multiple times. The more recent changing of the life happened because I read Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
Yep.
And it's because I was suffering from what I call the shiny squirrel syndrome. Squirrel. Yeah. So if you're listening and you chase too many shiny squirrels, and then it leads to diluted focus and diluted results and all of that, and you're not prioritizing anything, you're not maxing out on anything, but hey man, I feel like I've got 10 things I'm interested in. Well, I was suffering from that shiny squirrel syndrome. And after reading Essentialism, that's when my business started to take off. And because of that, naturally, there's a positive domino effect on life.
Yeah. My Enneagram, I don't know if you're familiar with Enneagram, but my Enneagram is I'm an 8. And in one of my perils is lust, not like lust, like sexual,
romantic.
but it's the what'd you say? Shiny squirrel syndrome.
Shiny squirrel syndrome.
It's like a year ago, I didn't have any what I'd call luxury watches, right? So I think I'm going to look into that, and then you go down that rabbit hole, and then I can then I'll just buy everything, and then I go, well, then I get bored with that, and then it's and so I totally get what you're saying, and I can definitely be guilty of that. So you know what? I've never read that book, and I love when people come up. I'm glad that I said Think and Grow Rich, because that made you go on to the next book that I haven't read, and I'm going to get your 2 books. So I'm going to buy 3 books as soon as we get off here, and I'm going to sign up for the masterclass on confidence, because I love that concept of confidence. And I know that Paul can teach me something in those few hours and those few lessons that is going to change my life. I'm going to take his experience, his life, learn a little bit what he learned over a lifetime in a few hours of these concepts that I can do that. And I encourage everybody to go to your website. Paul, what's the website?
PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com.
And check it out. This is something everybody can use. And that's why I was so excited to have Paul on the show today. And Paul, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom, and what a great background. And I love the way you speak, because, and by the way, we've been going for about 35 minutes. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, same here,
this.
man.
And
Same here. And Jim, also, the love is right back at you. I always say we're kindred spirits, and we're meeting at the 50. And also a gift for your audience too. Yes, of course, PaulEpsteinSpeaks.com. You can find the masterclass, the speaking info, the book info. Here's a very simple ask as well, and this is a gift from my heart. If you want 52 weeks of learning, of growth, of momentum, if you want to join this spirit of winning Monday, I call it Monday Momentum. All you have to do, this will be the easiest website ever to remember, winmonday.win. That's winmonday.win. Putting your name and email, there is no cost. All that I'm going to do is pop in your inbox 52 times to level up your life every single Monday.
By the way, I signed up for that today when I was going around your site. And so I signed up for it. And I almost signed up for the masterclass, and I said, I'm going to wait till after I
make sure
after I do the
legit.
interview. And but because I'm very impulsive, so I'm like, okay,
I get it. I get it.
So I'm the shiny squirrel. I'm going to steal that one too. Anyway, Paul, thank you so much for being on the show, and I can't thank you enough. And we're going to end this like we do every episode, audience, with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale and The Strangest Secret. So take it away, Earl.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.